and welcome back. It's now time for the round 1 summary of season 3 of the Brew Bowl. Let's go over to the summary page and see how things are looking in the league right now. Okay, so first off, let's take a look at the leaderboard. So in equal first place, we have the Coatls, Kodiaks, and Gladiators, all with a win with a 3+ margin. Then we've got the Warrior Priest sitting with a +2 margin in 4th place, and then the Scarabs and Enslavers in 5th place, both with wins on a +1 margin. The Race, Marauders, Hammerers, and Knights all drew during the first round. They're sitting on 1 point, with obviously a difference of 0 from only having a draw. And then finally we have our teams that lost. So we have both the Lauren Forest Drakes and the Goblins, the Fungus Bay Fanatics in 11th place with a loss to -1. The Slow Thicket Panther Raiders sitting on 13th place with a loss by 2. And then finally the Scravold Butchers, the Hyodo Wan Harbours, and the Death River Avengers, who lost their first round matches by 3 and sit at the bottom of the table currently in equal 14th place. So let's go look at the teams directly now. So we'll start off with Foehammer's team, the Asquan Gladiators. Not many real changes here. First off, Hippolyte picked up Dirty Player, and she was actually sent off during this match for fouls or foul behaviour. On top of that, Foehammer also picked up a Cheerleader and an Apothecary, strongly cementing the Gladiators' place as the most expensive or highest team value team in the league right now. All right, Pondo's team, the Coatls, picked up Guard on his Croxagore and also picked up 2 new players, one of which there's a new rule which allows players to roll a management role whenever they hire new players, and if they get a 10 or above, then that player comes along with a new skill, with a random skill, and that random skill does not count towards that player being drafted. So one of the linemen that they picked up for 60k actually came with Catch, and is therefore worth 70k, and will not be rolling to see if they are drafted because of their Catch skill. All right, on to the Death River Avengers, who lost to the Asquan Gladiators. They picked up Pro on one of their blockers, on one of their blitzers, sorry. Otherwise, no real major changes for that team. The End of Volley Kodiaks, who won their match over the Hyodo Wan Harbours, picked up Dodge on one of their Valkyries, and then also picked up another lineman to add to their roster. Saw their dedicated fans grow as well, so a very good game there for the Kodiaks. All right, on to the Fungus Bay Fanatics. They had a match where they got a first turn touchdown, seemed to be off to a good start, but then unfortunately things fell apart from there and they ended up losing that match. Their Doom Diver went for the skill, got a random skill, diving tackle. Not a great skill for the Doom Diver probably, but still I guess an overall useful skill in Blood Bowl. Did pick up an extra lineman as well, so the Fanatics are off to an okay start despite losing their first round match. The Hyodo Wan Harbours, definitely one of the surprises for me in this first round that they lost so poorly to the Kodiaks. Things just didn't go Lawson's way. In the end, one of his players is out missing next game, Yoma the Blade, and then one of his players picked up Guard as a fresh skill. So this is the team that Lawson is running as one positional and all linemen until he gets enough money to buy some more positionals. So let's see how that strategy works out for him. The Iron on Hammerers, which of course is Spoon's team, picked up On the Ball for Bo Jackson. Although unfortunately for them, Rain Lewis and their casualty machine is missing next game. They did pick up a new player, another Troll Slayer, Cornelius Bennetson, and he came along with an extra skill too, which was Armbar, thanks to a good roll on management. So yeah, that's the Hammerers. Okay, another new team, the Camry City Scarabs. One of their linemen picked up Frenzy. I was quite surprised they did so well in the first round, given that they are such a slow team. But I guess it's one of those cases where slow and steady can really win the race. So we'll see. I'll be to see how the Scarabs do for the remainder of the league. Right, Lord Hunger's team, the Leichberg Knights, the newly changed vampire team using the new rules that have been released. So Lana Metzger, their runner, picked up Dodge. And they also picked up an extra lineman and an apothecary. So a big jump in team value for the Knights, which may see them considering some inducement points in future rounds. Then we've got the Lauren Forest Drakes, our Wood Elf team. Picked up Sidestep on Kiazlak, one of their War Dancers, a really powerful combination, dodge, block, and Sidestep. Also picked up an Apothecary to keep themselves alive going forward because, yeah, they've often lost players, unfortunately, and there are some players in their team like Midi who some people want to target as well. Okay, the Northcote Marauders, which is Omar Krieg's team. Unfortunately, one of their beastmen is missing next game, and they picked up Claws, another one. So they will be bringing in a journeyman for the next game. Yeah, I think overall it should be a fine game for them. I think they're playing a tougher opponent. We'll look at shortly at who's playing whom, but I believe they are playing the Knights in the second round. The Oberstein Wraiths picked up Sure Feet on a Blitzer, a random skill. Not the worst skill. I can see how a Blitzer that can re-roll their sprint rolls would be quite useful. So I guess we'll see how the Wraiths do going forward. The Scravold Butchers, something of a fan favourite team, lost a player to death, lost their major ball carrier for a game due to miss next game, but positive, managed to roll a random secondary skill for Meathook, their Bloodspawn, and got block, and then also picked up another Marauder lineman as well. So they go to the next match very, very strong. Don't know how well they'll score, but they will certainly mess up other teams they play against in future rounds, especially starting from the second round. The Slow Thicket Pantry Raiders, not a great game for them. Picked up Diving Tackle on O'Donningham, and also picked up a new lineman, Calamity Dewfoot, and an Apothecary as well. So a bit of a jump there for the Raiders. The Warpstone Slavers is, of course, AP Garrett Rill's team. Picked up Catch on Dawn Michaels. Otherwise, he is saving his money for what? I'm not sure. But he has a massive treasury of 195k at the moment. And finally, the Wiesbrook Warrior Priests had a great game. Picked up Fend on one of their linemen and also had enough melee to buy an extra lineman. So, yeah, they're looking pretty strong at this point in time. We're going to see how they do in subsequent rounds. Let's look at the individual players. So these leaderboards, of course, are across all 3 seasons of the Brew Bowl. They are combined numbers. If a player's name is in red, like you'll see in the most deadly column, you've got Fazieth from the Drakes. That means that player is dead and obviously will never have their points go up again. If they're in orange, that means that player is no longer in the league, either because they were drafted out or because their team departed. So once again, that number will never change. It's just a static point through which other players will have to sort of pass to reach higher levels. So we've certainly got big run out there by Dade with 19 passes. Closest next is 13, and then Midi with 20 touchdowns, which is only 2 ahead against Mossburner, but Mossburner's now out of the competition. So Bo Jackson sits 7 behind on 13. There's also another player, Faisira, is also tied in 4th place with 11 touchdowns. We've got a single interception still, or not true an interception, a deflection by the Gravemaker, which sits there as the solitary record in the interceptions field. For most deadly, Rain Lewison still holds that record, but with a miss next game, he will start to see his lead being eroded potentially by other players. But there are several players on that most deadly who are either no longer in the league or dead, so therefore it won't take much for other players to come up there. MVP just really relates to the number of skills they've got. 2 players have 4 skills, Faisira and Bo Jackson. A lot more than 3 players have 3 MVPs, so I won't go through the full details of who the most valuables are there. And then the most expensive is just who has the highest cost. Usually big guys, but in this case, Bo Jackson, Sabi, and Sonia all end up above other positional players to really play in the same value range as some of these really powerful big guys. So a quick touch on our fantasy league. So here are the scores so far after 1 round. So Lawson's in first place on 14 points. Spoon and Amos tying on 13 points. Then we've got Lord Hunger on 10, Omar Krieg on 9, Pondo on 8, and Fohammer on 7. So these are based on the players that they drafted into their fantasy teams, the points that they actually achieved from doing things like getting casualties, throwing passes, throwing touchdowns, even getting injured. Any value which was recorded in tool play, I'm using as a basis for the points for this fantasy league. As you can see here, some of the players have really embraced that and have done very well in that first round. So looking ahead to round 2, we have the Warrior Priest taking on the Coatls. I'm going to go through the numbers here, but for teams that have only played once and have one recorded tour play game, it's going to throw off the numbers because especially if they won, it's going to give them a very high score, which will need to average out over time. So right now, tour players telling me that the Warrior Priest score is 15, the Coatl 7.6, which would obviously heavily favour the Warrior Priest, but I think it's an incorrect economy of scale. So I think that'll be a much closer game. I think I still have to give it to the Coatls in the end, but I think the Warrior Priest will certainly ask a few questions that Pondo will struggle to answer. The Scarabs on a total score of 12, taking on the Kodiaks on a score of 16. I think that Dynamis has got this one. I think that Norse teams have the options in terms of speed with the Valkyries that you just can't handle with big guys that move 4 and little guys that move 5. So I think that the Kodiaks will have that one. The Gladiators on 9.8, taking on the Enslavers on 8.3. A match of players we haven't seen since the first season. I think it'll be a really fun match to watch between the Gladiators and the Enslavers. I cannot pick a win on that one. Yeah, I think whatever I say will end up being wrong, so I'm just going to say it's a coin toss as to whether the Gladiators or the Enslavers will win, and I look forward to seeing who actually does. Then we've also got the Hammerers sitting at 11.6 versus the Race on 11. That number, I think, is probably a bit skewed. I think that the Hammerers are a much stronger team, although they don't have any positionals anymore, or as many positionals. But I think that overall the Hammerers will take that one. Next up, we've got the Marauders on... oh, I didn't take these notes here, so I don't have the notes for who's got what score here, unfortunately. Marauders versus the Knights. I'm certainly thinking that the Knights will do very well here. And that's not just a case of the teams. It's just Lord Hunger has a huge amount of experience with Blood Bowl's been playing as long as I have. And Omar Krieg has been making some great leaps and bounds as far as learning the game goes. But I think that he'll struggle against Mike when Mike sort of turns himself up to full, especially with how powerful the vampire teams are now. Drake's Butchers, it's a tough call. I think that if the Butchers get a few casualties early, they could really make a mess of the Drakes, and that just then leaves the Butchers to try and manage the football. Otherwise, the Drakes, if they're not badly injured quickly, they could end up going off with a very high lead, and even if they do lose players later on, they can still then hold that lead. So it's hard to say there. I think probably the Drakes will have it there. I think the Drakes just have more options available to them than the Butchers do, but some bad armor rolls and some bad injury rolls could quickly change it around. Then we've got the Fungus Bay Fanatics versus the Hyoto One Harbors. Look, I think that Lawson is due a win. I think that he can do a lot with the High Elves. I think that I'm not as strong with stunty teams as some people might think, even though I did get a one-turn touchdown in the first round with the Doom Diver. Yeah, so I think that that one, the Battle of the Bays or the Battle of the Harbors, because Fungus Bay is in a harbor as well. So we'll have to see how we'll have to maybe create might use the coastal weather for that particular match. And then finally we've got the Raiders versus the Revengers, two teams which lost in the first round. I think the Revengers have got this one. They're going to go all over the Halflings. Doesn't matter they've got tree men. I just think that the Orcs are powerful. They've just come off a loss to the Gladiators, and they're going to want some blood. And I think that they're going to take it out of the slow ticket Pantry Raiders. So that is the summary of round 1. Round 2 will be starting soon. Hope you're still enjoying the series. Don't forget, please, to like us and subscribe on Facebook, on YouTube. And also, of course, come across to the AP Game Reel Discord channel, where you can chat with myself and all the other players. Otherwise, please do keep enjoying the Brew Bowl. We look forward to seeing you when we come back next time.